5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. Tonight, stunning new revelations on anti-Trump bias at the FBI. As you know, two top agents removed from Mueller's Russia investigation exchanged tens of thousands of texts. Many of them disparaged President Trump, who they were investigating. According to two lawmakers, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page also spoke of a secret society formed at the FBI after Mr. Trump's election.
The day after the election, the day after what they really didn't want to have happen, there's a text exchange between these two FBI agents, these two supposed to be objective, fact-centric FBI agents saying perhaps this is the first meeting of the secret society. So, of course, I'm going to want to know what secret society are you talking about, because you're supposed to be investigating objectively the person who just won the Electoral College. So, yeah, I'm going to want to know.
5 months worth of texts between the pair have gone MIA. The FBI's lost them. The president calls it one of the biggest stories in a long time. The Justice Department insists it will get to the bottom of it. But here's one that wasn't lost. It shows Strzok expressing skepticism the Mueller probe would uncover any wrongdoing by the president and his team. Quote, "My gut sense and concern, there's no big there." Sarah Sanders was asked about the president's thoughts on these new developments just moments ago.
I think he thinks that there's a great cause for concern that 5 months worth of text messages have gone missing, particularly given the individual that has part of that process has already been shown to be extremely biased against the president and was involved in what seems to be some very inappropriate behavior. And that certainly is a great concern.
Okay, and speaking of secret societies, clearly there is one between Dana Perino, myself, and Sarah Sanders in shades of pink and purple.
Juan is
trying to
honorary member.
Gain admittance.
Yeah, he's rushing.
I got the memo. I'm trying to match Greg's head.
Is that exactly? Poor Greg. It looks better today, by the way. I hope you're
It
not
does.
concussed.
It's makeup.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe it'll radically change your personality, the little bump, okay? All right, Dana, so what do you make of this? Like, the email's gone, investigation going forward, strong statements from the AG, and now mention of a secret society.
Well, and I don't know. I don't make too much out of any of it, because I think that all of it's coming out in little pieces. You don't know what the context is. And there are people that are pushing a particular agenda that might say, well, this obviously means this. It could actually mean something else. We don't know. The fact I've been at the White House at a time when there were emails that were on a server that went missing, and it's like there was a technical problem and where they were, and it caused a huge hullabaloo for a long time. They ultimately were found, and I think that the FBI, having the tools that it has, probably will be able to find them. And Richard Burr, the Senate Intelligence Committee chairman, he said that he doesn't think there was anything nefarious, that it was technical. Maybe that's true, maybe it's not, I don't know. And then you have the point that the email that you just read, or the text, where he says, Strzok says, I don't really think there's any there. That would seem to support the president's position that there is no collusion. So it's just really very much all over the map. And I'm just going to wait to make any conclusions until there is some sort of conclusion by everyone else.
Jesse, often are you just sitting in awe of Dana's reasonableness?
I'm going to do the opposite of Dana and not wait for any more conclusion.
Be yourself.
I'm going to make more out of this than Dana's willing to make, because it looks to me like there's rogue federal agents trying to corrupt the justice system and undermine American democracy. If you have FBI agents texting about brushing up on Watergate and impeachment right after Trump's election, and you have a talk about a secret society between FBI agents and justice officials who were the same people talking about creating an insurance policy to protect the country against the election of Donald Trump. That seems pretty sketchy to me, and these are the same people now are working on the Mueller team before they were fired. Now, also, the counterintelligence and counter-espionage agent of the FBI was tapped to be on the Mueller team, and the first thing that comes to his mind is, there's no there. There's no collusion. I mean, that says a lot, because that's his job. That's his wheelhouse right there. And so he gets put into that position. They don't really find any collusion so far. And now it looks like an obstruction of justice case that they're making. And who is the chief witness for obstruction of justice? It's James Comey, the best friend for Robert Mueller. So he illegally leaks the memo to his buddy, the professor. a few blocks away at Columbia. And now Comey hires his buddy, the professor, to represent him as his personal attorney. So that locks down the professor's testimony. Very cagey. And then all of a sudden, the FBI texts go missing. The FBI, their entire job is to retain intelligence. And then they lost the intelligence from the critical time period when this investigation began. It doesn't make sense. And then today, the chief of staff for James Comey and the current FBI director, Wray, resigns all of a sudden. I'm willing to make a little bit more of it than Dana Perino, but she's always been more cautious.
All right. Well, Jesse making hay. So what do you say?
Well, I'm going to try to make as much sense as possible, which means I will make no sense. I enjoyed the scandal ping pong of all of this. So every time some entity pushes the Russian collusion narrative, it pops up. Then the FBI, DOJ, Clinton cover-up comes right back. It's like the Trump critics are relieving themselves in the wind. And it feels good at the moment, but then they end up all wet.
Yeah.
There you go. Thank you. But the text, the text between these two FBI agents, it does reflect what we always knew and what we saw, a visceral and emotional reaction to Donald Trump. People hated him so much, and still do, that they feel justified to do anything because their sense of righteousness made it okay. They were like, it gave them the greater purpose. And then you throw into that the romance of it. So they're in love, they're having an affair, they're poor spouses. And so it's like you could hear David Bowie's Heroes in the background as they talk about it's a two against us. And there's a secret society. We have a tree house down by the river with secret handshakes. And I go back to what always my place of wisdom, which is the Brady Bunch. Mom always said, never play ball in the house.
Yeah.
And this is what happens when you play ball in the house. It's true. It's true. They played ball in the house. And
on their government phone.
On their government phone. And also,
you got Brady Bunched yesterday.
Yeah, you know what I did? I got hit. I got Marsha Brady'd in my face. Yes. But a lot of this noise, this conspiracy stuff exists because it can. America is a resilient country. The economy's barreling along. So we could go on and on and on about this as America goes on. Yep. It's almost as though the media, like we're watching a Netflix series where we're almost done. But the media is still stuck on the first episode. They can't move on from this stuff. They're just spinning their wheels because it's just, they can't let go. Don't play ball in the house.
All right, well, it seems like you've got some energy. You're doing better today.
No, I thank God for prescription medications.
Okay, so just
and some other ones.
Business as usual for Greg Gutfeld. So, Juan, what do you make of these current developments?
Well, breaking news here on the Fox News Channel. Nobody mentions it, but apparently the Attorney General was interviewed by Robert Mueller. Oh, my gosh, this is the first time a Trump cabinet secretary has been interviewed by the special counsel. Not only that, another breaking news event, Jim Comey interviewed by the special counsel, Robert Mueller. Meanwhile, what we've learned is...
That's what we're here for.
Yeah, and then more news here on Fox. Guess what? It's unbelievable.
Guess what?
Apparently, the Attorney General has been pressuring Christopher Wray, the FBI director, to go after Andrew McCabe, the #2 guy. And guess what? The Trump nominee, the Trump guy at FBI said to the Trump Attorney General, if you want this done, get somebody else in here. He didn't say he was going to quit, but he said he'd have somebody else do it. Right. Oh, my gosh. So what do we have here? We have a picture of the Trump administration right now on its heels and fighting to muddy up, dirty, discredit the FBI and Robert Mueller. Meanwhile, Mueller is having stepped up activity, and it's driving not only towards the possibility of collusion, but also towards obstruction of justice. And at this moment, what do you get? A counterattack from the Trump stooges on Capitol Hill.
Stooges?
Yeah. Who also? Oh, yeah. Imagine that. Two people having an affair are texting each other. And imagine that people inside the FBI have opinions about ongoing investigations, as if that is now a reason to say the FBI, is like a horse cage and needs to be cleaned up.
So guess what, Juan?
But guess what?
Collusion only matters if it's somebody you don't like. If you don't like that person, then it's collusion. But if you like that person, it's a choice for president, then you'll ignore any real collusion, which is admitting that there was no Russian collusion, that Lynch knew ahead of time that there were thousands of texts lost and that there's a secret society. But that's not collusion because you like Hillary.
No, if there was collusion, I would be all with you. But I'm just saying, even at this moment, I was struck today to read that some Democrats are concerned about the impact that Russia is having right now in the midst of the...
Of course they are. That's their spin.
In the midst of the argument over the DACA program, guess what? We've seen increased activity by these things.
Democrats didn't care about Russia during the Cold War. Now all of a sudden they care so much.
Oh, yeah, because it looks like we have ongoing
When it really mattered, when we were fighting to the death with the Russian communists, the Democrats were caving and they were appeasing. Now when Russia's not a threat, all of a sudden they want to fight the Cold War
again. Let me just say this to you, Jesse.
Yes.
Chris Wray?
Yes.
What do you think? You trust him?
I trust anybody that keeps emails and texts.
Oh,
Where did the texts go, Juan?
I see. So you don't trust...
that Hillary's
Let me
emails
get this straight.
I'm worried about the texts. Where'd they go, Juan?
I see. You
Where'd
don't
they go?
trust...
The same place the IRS emails?
All right.
Screaming is not an effective defense.
Right, well, I'm going to put it...
I'm not defending anything.
I have to go to my Secret Society partner right here, Dana Perino, for the final word to clean this mess up.
Well, there's a lot of smoke coming from a lot of different directions. Where there's smoke, there's a lot of fire. People learn that in investigations all the time. Like former Governor Chris Christie, for example, like basically had Bridgegate come down, fall upon him like a ton of bricks, and basically ruin his chances for a future political office. So, things can happen along the way, but these investigations take a lot of time. And it is sort of like Americans tune into the news because it is almost entertainment now.
Yeah.
So we expect something new every day. So I think that's why you have these different entities pushing one narrative, and then, if you're going to put out the thing about the missing text, I'll put out there that the Mueller investigation interviewed the Attorney General and the former FBI director. So now we can have a new scene.
And they're all equal. Like you can't, they're all like, it's like, pros and cons. Each one's equal. They need to have a lost and found for missing texts. Somebody's got to invent that. Like, I lost 50,000 texts. Surely somebody could find those.
I think they'll probably find them.
It's the size of a small car.
Well, they have to do
50,000.
But they weren't 50,000 texts that were missing. They don't know how many are missing. They had 50,000 that they've reviewed.
I thought there was 50,000 missing. No. I should probably read more closely.
Well,
but then that would
doesn't really matter.
It doesn't really matter.
It could be 100,000 texts.
It's probably 500,000.
Well, you are injured and concussed potentially, but we'll have a CAT scan and get back to you tomorrow. Chuck Schumer goes from shutdown hero to zero with members of his own party. Lots of questions about his leadership after caving to Republicans. Next.
Government shutdown orchestrated and ended by Democrats. Chuck Schumer's plan did not work, and he ultimately caved. Republicans, the media, and the Dreamers are not going to let him forget it.
The Democrats giving in on the Dreamers for now.
My message to Chuck Schumer is pretty simple. We got to this point. What happened? Why did the Democratic Party have to blink first?
The government is open again after Senate Democrats backed down from a budget and immigration standoff.
I'm outraged. We're all furious by what's going on because they have shown us that they do not care about us.
Is it fair to say that the government shutdown backfired for Democrats?
Again, who's hurt is more important than who is blamed.
It's just another form of betrayal.
Schumer may be feeling the heat today. We're learning the minority leader has withdrawn an offer to boost funding for President Trump's proposed border wall. He's said to have put it on the table during the summit that he had with the president, where they had cheeseburgers, and then it all fell apart after that. Juan, Chuck Schumer is known for being a pretty savvy politician. In 2006, he engineered the takeover of the Senate by Democrats in that midterm election. Did he make a mistake here, or was it just something that he had to do?
Well, so you have to look at it through different sets of glasses, Dana. One is, if you're Chuck Schumer and you think you have a chance to win the Senate in the fall, then you want to protect Democrats and give them the best chance, especially Democrats. I think there are 10 Democrats who come from states that were carried by Donald Trump.
Yep.
And as you know, there were 4 or 5 of them that voted initially not to have the shutdown.
Right.
And then you have this group of moderates come about that includes lots of Democrats and who say, you know what, it's better not to have a shutdown. We've got these robocalls aided by the Russians saying, oh, you're putting illegal immigrants over the interest of Americans by having a shutdown. And you know the line that came from the White House, this is about military not about illegal immigrants and all that. And so if they felt that they were losing on that narrative drive, then Chuck Schumer was wise to go along with the moderates and say, okay, let's wait another day. We're going to wait 3 weeks, and then we're going to come back to this and we'll see what happens. The other set of glasses I would ask you to put on is the set of glasses that belong to people who are dreamers or who are their supporters or people who are in the fast-growing Hispanic Latino community. And they look at it and they say, wait a second, we support Democrats. We waited through two continuing resolutions in December. We were promised that this was the moment.
They're getting answers.
And gosh, look what you get. So the Democrats come back and say, oh, we got CHIP. We got, funding 6 years, I think, for the children's health insurance.
But they're not spinning it very well. I think that even Democrats are admitting that it doesn't look good. A lot of bad headlines today, Jesse.
A lot of bad headlines, and I might as well be a Russian bot, Juan, because I actually said on the show that Schumer was putting illegals over the U.S. military. It doesn't take a genius to see that, except Schumer.
Except you might be a genius.
I think Schumer, a very stable one.
Yes.
I think Schumer thought Trump was going to wheel and deal, and he just sat back and stood firm, and then Schumer spazzed out and humiliated himself. They've been pulled so far to the left by their Hispanic lobby that they walked right into a trap. And I think they think the Hispanic lobby, I know they think the Hispanic lobby's loud, and they are loud. There's a lot of activists that cause a lot of trouble.
They're vocal.
For people. They're very vocal. They put, they get out there on the streets. But I don't know if they have the clout, because if you're talking about 300 million Americans here in this country to 800,000 dreamers, I just don't really see where the power is there. So Schumer comes along, and they know they need amnesty, and they know they need open borders because they need new voters because they've alienated the white working class of this country. That's a fact. But at the same time, he drove off a cliff in order to achieve that. And I'm thinking to myself, who started the whole thing? It's President Obama. He timed the whole DACA deal from the jump. He knew it was temporary. He knew Congress had to fix it. Trump assumes office. It was about to get smacked down by the courts, so Trump just kicked it back to the Congress. Now Congress just has to do its job.
So Greg, we can bring back the old hashtag. Thanks, Obama.
Yes, there you go. No, I think the Dems are in shock because they didn't get the assist from the media that they had expected. They were Abbott without their Costello. And it was sad. And I don't think this tantrum is afterwards by the left and by liberals is a good look, because when you really think about it, they didn't lose anything. All this is a pause. This is basically a 17-day bathroom break between the shutdown and what's going to happen in February 8th.
And they actually did get the CHIP funding that they wanted for 6 years.
So if you start screaming, you're going to look incredibly thankless. And we already know, as what Jesse said, the narrative is actually a factual story. It's not a narrative. It's a factual story. The Dems put undocumented immigrants, illegal aliens before citizens. That's not a narrative. That's actually a documented fact.
How so?
Because that's how they tried to stop the bill based on DACA.
Oh,
what do I got to do? Do I need some semaphores to do this for you? We've been talking about this for months.
What do you want him to do? Hit his head on the door?
Excuse me. I think we have a situation here where Donald Trump is the one who undid DACA and then said, I'm going to set a March deadline, and then refused to negotiate and didn't pass a budget.
Is it March?
March? It's not even March yet.
It's January.
So
no, it's a March deadline.
Do you think that what do you think will happen in 3 weeks?
We're not at the deadline.
We've got 3 weeks until the next round.
Bottom line is, I think that this is boding very well for the president. I think the Democrats are in when baseball, you're in the pickle, right? They're trying. You're going to get tagged out. Thanks to Crying Chuck, it's a big problem. Political capital for Schumer way down. This was a strategic move, I think, by the president and his team that has worked well, and again is in keeping and consistent exactly with what he said he was going to do during the campaign, and I think more in step with the majority of Americans in terms of what they want. So I think that this is actually going to ultimately prevail as a victory for the president, and I think we're already seeing that perhaps even quicker than we thought.
Yep. Can I just add that? This is what he does. Why make a deal when it's not till March? People don't do that when you're dealing. When you're a dealer. The other thing too is, but to make Juan happy, Trump often likes to deal more than what's in the deal. So you'll be. I
might
think
be dealing for a while.
Yeah.
You know, one thing I did think, and I'll wrap it up. Don't worry, Mr. in my ear. That if you look back at the headlines in 2013 when the Republicans caved and ended the shutdown, that the headlines that Chuck Schumer is dealing with today were the ones that the Republicans were dealing with back then, and people move on. But what we really should do is try to get back to regular order and just pass a budget. And make a
that'd be
here.
All right, ahead. NBC accused of helping spread North Korean propaganda. You decide. Next.
Warm beer. There's also that ongoing threat of nuclear war. So it took a lot of people by surprise when they heard NBC's top anchor, Lester Holt, making a point to credit the country for its kind treatment during his recent visit.
We arrived in North Korea on Saturday. We flew the North Korean state airline. It's about an hour-and-a-half flight from Beijing. We have been treated with respect here. We have been invited, and our guests of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We stayed in a guest house outside Pyongyang last night and then made our way to this ski resort to get a look at a part of North Korea that most Americans don't see, and certainly a part they would like us to see.
All right, Dana, do you think Lester Holt realizes he's handing the North Koreans a propaganda victory?
Yeah, I do, because I've watched a couple of these reports, and in each report, he does have a little bit of a caveat and a little bit of like we get the joke here. But I think that this video and these invitations are not meant for us. This is meant for internal propaganda brainwashing so that the leader, the dear leader, can show all the people there that live in North Korea just how respected the North Koreans are, just how wonderful their country is. Meanwhile, most of the country is starving, and it is absolutely outrageous. In the Weekly Standard, one of your favorites, Ethan Epstein
I have the subscription now. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. Ethan Epstein writes a piece today it's called 12 Times the Media Offered a Rare Glimpse into North Korea in just the last several years. So obviously we are being used.
If you were Lester, pretend you're Lester, Greg.
I am.
Would you accept the invitation, or would you say no way?
I don't know. You know, imagine if Fox and Friends did a week of shows in North Korea. Cooking with Friends would be literal. Be like, hey, I reckon the casserole looks familiar. I like it when he says, he says they showed us part of North Korea that we don't see. We don't see any part of North Korea. We only see what they let us see. This was very common among communist leaders. They did this constantly with Hollywood celebrities. They would Hollywood celebrities would go to Cuba, they go to USSR, Venezuela. They would turn hapless, naive suckers like Sean Penn into fellow traveling mouthpieces. And because you know why? They would treat you well. They'd get you booze, they'd get you women, they'd do all sorts of stuff. But the thing is, there's there's some interesting things that could happen during this. They could be taken hostage. What do we do then? The U.S. probably cannot exercise a military option knowing that, that those people are there. Or they could infect them with some kind of biological agent and send them back to the United States, which is, you know, possible.
Did you lay awake at night thinking about this?
I think about it all the time, Kimberly.
All right, well, the Five will not be going to North Korea anytime soon. Kimberly, what do you think about this?
I mean, we just asked to go to the Super Bowl.
I know, and we were told no.
And I was like, well, wait a second, because, you know, last time you went, they were like, send KG. Okay.
Yeah, we liked you down there.
Yeah, it was good. Look, so Lester Holt has an opportunity to go there. I get it as a journalist. I don't begrudge him the opportunity, but nevertheless, I think some of the criticism, you know, is fair. And when you actually look at the facts, the circumstances, the evidence, the intel coming out of North Korea, you see it is a barbaric regime where people are being starved. His army is starving. They're now being told to steal food from starving farmers. He is on a charm campaign offensive for the Olympics to try to prove that there's something other than what they are. And that's why he's sending dancers and this and that over to the Olympics to see. So let not your mind be fooled.
Right, and part of the charm offensive, they're having the North Korean athletes train with South Korean athletes. And I think the dear leader spent about $35 million on this fancy ski resort. So it's all part of the propaganda.
Yeah, absolutely. And the key political point is here, you will have 22 North Korean athletes marching with the South Korean delegation into the Olympics. And this is a real show of unity until you have Moon Jae-in, who's the president of South Korea, agreeing to this kind of détente. It's not necessarily in the interest of the United States as we try to put pressure on North Korea to hold back in terms of their nuclear weapons. And the sanctions regime, as Kimberly just said, all of that now starts to fall and be uncertain. And I think part of it is to have Americans come in. They had Vice come in. We've had others go in, Lester Holt go in. The idea is to, humanize them, soften them up. Here they are at the ski resort. But it's just, again, this is propaganda, and you just got to see it for what it is.
All right, ahead, another anthem controversy just before the Super Bowl. Right back.
And Eagles. It'll close out a very controversial season for the NFL, and the anthem controversy, well, that isn't over. The league is now under fire yet again, this time for rejecting a proposed ad for the game's program. A veterans group called AMVETS wanted to urge people to, quote, please stand, end quote, for our national anthem. They were turned down. The NFL's reason, quote, the Super Bowl game program has never been a place for advertising that could be considered by some as a political statement. The NFL has long supported the military and veterans and will again salute our service members in the Super Bowl. What do you think, Kimberly?
Yeah, I mean, look, yes, you've got to, I'm done with this kneeling thing, to be 100% honest with you. It's enough already. I think the message got completely convoluted. I think let's show respect for our military, for our veterans, for the patriots that have served this country, continue to serve, those that have given their lives, and to honor their families who have lost their loved ones in service to this country. So for me, I think, like, okay, this is the Super Bowl. Let's pull it together, people, and don't make it, about you or your individual particular ideology, of the day. You're something that you want to flash on, and do something about the team and play the sport and honor the occasion.
Well, so the NFL did approve, please honor our veterans and please stand for our veterans. But, Jesse, they did not approve, please stand.
I'm going to invoke my view rule, which is if you want something from someone right around the corner, don't criticize them. So I'm trying to go to the Super Bowl, and I need tickets. I need a lot from the NFL, so even a credential.
Did you ask?
So I'm going to hold my tongue here. What?
Did you ask?
How reasonable.
We're working on it, Kimberly, on multiple levels. But in all seriousness, they've had a bad year. And they've had a bad year before that and before that when it came to domestic abuse, when it became, the Deflategate debacle, and now the kneeling controversy with Kaepernick. They're letting people wear socks with pigs on them as cops, and they don't let an ad that's pro-military on. It just doesn't make any sense. You can't square anything the NFL has done when it comes to the military recently. I don't get it. I was denied a flyover when I was at the Eagles game because of the Schumer shutdown the other day. I'm very upset.
You were
upset about a number of levels.
Jesse was denied.
You notice he has a lot in common with his mentor. It's all about Jesse.
Yeah, you just
Who's that? Right?
So
you just killed your chances, just so you know, with that litany, that whole list of NFL failures.
The NBA and the NHL both accepted the ad for their All-Star game programs.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like the NFL really, they have had a bad run, and they stumbled out of the gate and then have never quite really gained their footing ever since.
Ooh, 3 sports metaphors.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that in some ways what they could have done is just... I understand the reason that they decided not to do it. But what they could have said is, does anybody else want to run an ad? But if they had done that, then there would have been a controversy surrounding that. So this is what I hope for America. Let's just have the Super Bowl. Let's enjoy. Let's have the Eagles win.
Yeah.
Go for the Eagles.
All right,
and
Dana.
Then there can be a clean slate, and everybody can stand for the anthem next year. Period.
So NBC, which has the game this year, Greg, says they will show any of the players that kneel. But no player on either team has kneeled, I think, in the last, 4 or 5 weeks, since week 12.
For a while.
So this, then, is the big controversy. But is it a controversy? I mean, I don't think the fans would have even known about it if people hadn't objected.
I think, yeah, I think the NFL drew more attention to it by rejecting it, which is now our D block. If they hadn't rejected it, this would not be our D block, and we'd be talking about something else. I'm not sure what.
Crooked Hillary, probably.
Yeah, I think Crooked Hillary would be a good replacement. Super Bowl... Okay, they reject an ad like that, but will approve of just about anything to run in a commercial on television where they combine the most disturbing messages with food and with alcohol, and like they'll have women, with a giant sandwich doing stuff that, like, you'd have to send your kids out of the room.
Carl's Jr.
Yeah, and then the Super Bowl, yeah, Carl's Jr. And then you have the halftime. Generally, the halftime, they will allow you to do anything because it's a celebrity. So it's kind of weird that they pick and choose what messages are approved and what aren't.
So I have a final question for you, because you're our music critic. Pink is going to sing the Star Spangled Banner. How will Pink do, Greg?
She's fantastic.
I think she'll do fine.
Oh, you like Pink?
I wouldn't have picked her.
You wouldn't?
Who would you have picked?
I would have picked Slayer. They're on their they're on their final tour. Slayer's on their final tour. You can have like a whole metal halftime with Slayer and Power Trip. Maybe
Nobody
you have Anthrax.
wants that.
Testament could be there.
So no Timberlake. You're going with Slayer.
No Timberlake. You know. I think that would be
is
good.
an excellent performer. She's great vocal, so no one cares about your whole slaying situation.
Slaying situation.
Did you like Jimi Hendrix's version?
Fantastic, yes.
That's what I thought, too. Anyway, next, Hawaii's governor finally reveals what took him so long to notify the public that they weren't about to get hit by an incoming ballistic missile. Wait until you hear why. Gregory has the story.
Guess what?